Chaos of Finance, where I am your host, Alacias and
And I'm Duncan Sandlin. How are you today, Lacey?
Duncan. I'm fabulous, but I'm dying to know what we're going to be talking about today because you're just going to throw it at me.
I am. We're going to go through some news. Republicans having some problems in the House. I know. Poor babies. And then, poor babies. And then, Elon Musk is having some rough times. And that'll lead into a fun little Twitter blow up between a guy named Andrew Tate and Greta Thunberg, who's a climate activist, which turned out to be really funny.
Wait. You mean to tell me that people on Twitter were mean to each other?
Oh, wait, no, this gets better. And then we're going to cover some stuff on inequality, mostly how it gets sort of misinterpreted in finance or by people in finance and in the news. So, fun stuff we'll start with. So, Elon's had the horrible, bad, terrible year. I don't know what your New Year's was like, but it did come up about Elon has now set a world record. The only man ever in history to lose over $200 billion.
That is not the record anybody has ever wanted to achieve ever.
So that's what he's lost in the last year, or probably just in the last 6 months.
Can I do the cup half full thing? Tea mug half full here.
Sure, go for it.
He had that money to lose.
Well,
most of us have never had that kind of money to lose.
He's still got over $100 billion, so it's not like it's going to affect his lifestyle. But
seriously, he's not going to have to buy the cheaper bread.
No, I know, but it's any hope he had of going down in history as a brilliant genius businessman is gone. So
you know what? He can still go to space this weekend if he feels like it. So I'm not going to cry for him.
He might even go be the biggest loser on Mars if that's what he wants to do.
He might be licking his wounds a little bit.
Oh, I'm sure he's humiliated right now. So this is Tesla for the year, right? So he tied all of his reputation to Tesla, their stock, right? And they tanked. And they're also in big trouble, too, because Tesla, their cars are not exactly well made. And you can look this up on YouTube and stuff, too. If you look at, just Tesla car, manufacturer, how well made is it? They're pretty poorly put together. For as expensive as they are, you would think they'd be really well made, but they're things are not high quality.
Well, haven't they done a certain amount of recalling of
quite a bit
Tesla cars or parts or et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, part of the reason they were able to get away with it so long, and we talked about this before, is the idea they had a monopoly on electric cars for the most part. For a long time, you couldn't get an all-electric car unless it was a Tesla. That's all going to change now. GM is in the business, Ferrari's in the business, Porsche's in the business, BMW, Toyota.
There are makers that are getting into the game that are, not that these cars are cheap per se, but that are getting into the game for a more modest price than what a Tesla is.
Right. Well, even if the
people with more, regular incomes as opposed to.
Well, even for a similar price, you can get the Porsche all-electric vehicles, which have the batteries have shorter charging time, longer charge power, and the car is just a better made car all around.
And you get to say I'm driving a Porsche.
Right.
I don't know, maybe it's my age speaking, but being able to say you're driving a Porsche.
Yeah, and Porsche owns Ferrari now, so it's a whole different company. So now what's going to happen is when they start moving the fleets to electric and electric becomes more of a thing, probably by 2030, you're going to start to see electric charging stations more frequently. And the idea is that by 2035, all new cars will be electric, right? So, that's what the goal of a lot of the governments are right now. That'll save a lot on emissions. It'll save a lot of money. And it takes a lot of our dependency off of gasoline, which is, a good thing because then we're not as beholden to OPEC. So that's all good stuff. But the thing about it is the companies that are going to be doing that are going to be GM, BMW, Mitsubishi, Toyota. It's not going to be Tesla. They don't have the manufacturing capability. So everybody kind of knows that. I think part of that's why he moved to Twitter and did all this stuff was there's a lot of pressure. And the problem is that he hinged everything to his ego and his reputation, which as a CEO you never want to do. In fact, as a CEO, you barely want to be seen. You just want to do your job, right? The more you're in the news, it's not good because they're going to dig stuff up on you and they're going to find stuff out and it's going to be humiliating because you're essentially a celebrity. Um, so, which is unfortunate, but it's true. So he's tanked Tesla stock. They're down 70% over the last year. So I don't know about his shareholders, but I doubt he's going to be the CEO of Tesla much longer. I bet you they'll vote him out. As far as Twitter goes,
You heard that prediction first here. Let's see if Duncan looks into his crystal
the ball. Well, here's the other thing.
He will see in the future.
Well, here's the other thing too. Remember, he ran a survey on Twitter. Should I step down from running Twitter? And the mob came back.
That's not a good idea.
It was horrible. And the mob came back, and what did they tell him? Yeah, you should. And he still.
Because I'm going to make my major life decisions on the basis of a Twitter pool of people I have never met.
Right. Well, on top of that fact, it's like, what did he think was going to happen? Of course, they were going to vote no.
Yeah, those are Twitter users, not Twitter shareholders. It's not like he's being like, hey, I'm going to take a poll of the Twitter shareholders. Should I step down? I could give him some like, wow, that's crazy to do that, but it makes sense. But the Twitter users,
I think he's the primary shareholder of Twitter, though. Anyway, so there was that. So he still hasn't stepped down, even though he said he would. And it looks like he's going to lose his position at Tesla. So he'll still have SpaceX, I guess, which makes no money. But anyway, in his infinite wisdom, he pulled a lot of bans off of people. One of the guys he pulled it off of was Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate had a 5-year ban for saying some pretty horrible things on Twitter. Do you know who Andrew Tate is? Well, aren't you lucky?
got nothing.
Andrew Tate.
It doesn't seem like I'm missing a lot. All right.
Yeah,
Who's this, Mr. Tate?
He describes himself as a misogynist. He thinks women are property. He's got a lot of like how to pick up chicks and manipulate women kind of stuff, and he's one of those creepy guys, right? And he's made a lot of money doing that. But here's where things got really, really funny. So, I'll pull this little New York Post article. So he gets back on Twitter. The first thing he does is he attacks Greta Thunberg. You know who she is? She's a famous climate activist from Europe. But yeah, so.
Okay, so now we're attacking climate activists?
Okay, well, she just turned 20 this week. I think it was January 3rd was her 20th, but she was 19. So he sent her this sort of troll message about how he has these 33 luxury cars and how much emissions they emit and how he's destroying the environment. And then he ended the tweet saying to her, at her directly, please provide your email address so I can send you a complete list of my car collection and their respective enormous emissions. So here's a guy in his...
Like, why are you doing all of that?
Well, yeah, so here's a guy in his mid-30s, and he's attacking a 19-year-old climate activist. It's like, okay.
This is like a special breed of ridiculous.
Well, plus, now...
No life.
I know. Well, it's funny. So, my whole thing is this. Is like, well, Duncan, Lacey, what does that have to do with finance? Well, it's a risk-reward scenario, right? What are the rewards of you being a 30-something-year-old man, 35-year-old man attacking a 19-year-old girl on Twitter? The reward is what? You win?
Right, that's a pretty small reward. Like,
but you're still gonna.
Cares?
Well, even if you win, you're still gonna look like an asshole because you're beating up on a 19-year-old.
Right, like
You're beating up on a teenager. Also,
it's like you're picking on someone half your size, and then you come and be like, "Yeah, but at least I won the fight." Like,
well,
okay, so.
Well, okay, but what's the risk? So the reward's not very good. So what's the risk? The risk is you look stupid, and then you got your ass kicked by a 19-year-old. That looks bad, right? And let's face it, if you're over 24, you are not as cool as a 19-year-old kid is. It's just...
So the odds of you just looking like a total idiot
really
are
high.
really high.
Right.
Really high.
But what is
because I know that I am not nearly as cool as those younger adults, and I'm not going to go and start trying to like publicly be like saying nasty things about them and whatever. because I'm not that cool.
So let's look at what happened here. So she responds back. This is last week. She responds back, yes, please do enlighten me. Email me at smalldickenergy@getalife.com. And then his first response was, how dare you? He was all hurt. And then he sent another response later on. So this was his initial tweet. Now, he sent another response later where he's eating a pizza from a place called Jerry's Pizza. Jerry's Pizza is in Romania. And you'd be asking yourself, Duncan, how would you know this? Well, we didn't estimate the risk on this properly, Lacey, because I know this because he got arrested in Romania that same day. In a police raid, he got arrested with his brother. They got arrested for sex trafficking women. Yep, illegal slave trade, and a bunch of counts of rape. So he's looking at doing life in prison in Romania.
Well, I guess that takes care of that car collection. It could just, be parted out to people who need cars.
Well, the rumor is, and I don't know how true it is, but I would like to believe it's true, was they were monitoring his Twitter, the police, and when they saw that he had a pizza from Jerry's, which is a local pizza shop in Romania, that's how they knew he was in town, and that's when they planned the raid. Because they were waiting for him to be back in town to arrest him.
So he literally gave himself dead away because he was being an ass.
Trying to pick a fight with a knife.
Some activist on Twitter because he just wouldn't stop fighting with them.
Yep. Because she made him look like a douchebag on Twitter.
I mean, you know what? Good for her. I'm not usually all about it. I don't engage in junk like that, really, but he really kind of had it coming. Regardless of what side of anything you're on, he had it coming.
Yeah. Well, we don't. I mean, I don't think I've ever trolled anybody. I mean,
who's got time for that?
Well, furthermore, we have to be like, I wouldn't start something like that.
No. And if other people start things like that, I really just don't have time to be bothered with it, really,
However, if you say something stupid, you're open game. That's kind of my attitude.
I agree. If you say something stupid, you're open game. Like, if you come at me, you get what you get. But I really still might not engage because I just can't be bothered sometimes with the idiocy,
Yeah. Well,
I like spending time on it.
So speaking of rich 30-year-olds going after, middle class 19-year-olds, right? Or I guess she's upper middle class now. Let's talk about some more income inequality stuff. Segue. Segue. I know. So income inequality. If you didn't know, we're gonna kind of go over how people are talking about it. And we're gonna use some Dave Ramsey stuff. And I got a fun one for you, Lace, coming up. Oh, I'm really excited. You were gonna. I found.
Am I gonna get a ringside commentary on this one?
Well, we could do that. Yeah, we could do that on the next one.
I don't even know what it is, so I'm not even sure what I'm signing myself up for here.
Nah, I don't know either. But no, I found the man of your dreams. I'll show you at the end of this clip. At the end of this video. Anyway,
I'm scared the idea of you setting me up. I don't even know.
He's a nice guy. Anyway, so.
Oh, nothing good ever comes from somebody telling you he's a nice guy. And the first thing somebody says is he's a nice guy. He probably lives in his grandmother's basement.
Oh no,
he probably needs someone to pick a bag over his head when he leaves. I don't know.
This guy's probably got multiple houses. Anyway, we're gonna start with a clip with Ken Coleman. I guess their new person, Jade Warshaw, something like that. But just to give you kind of a hint, so income inequality in America has gotten to the point where it's worse than it has ever. I mean, we're worse than most other developed countries. I keep freezing that was weird. But yeah, we're worse than most other developed countries, and it's the worst it's been in this country worse than it was in the 1920s, which isn't ominous at all because, as we all know, the 1920s was the party that never ended. Remember the 1930s? Just more 20s.
No. Nobody remembers the 1930s because they were
He's 20s. It was a rough hangover.
It was a rough decade party, a rough decade of
hangover. Yep. So his first video, it's Ken Coleman and Jay Warsaw, and they're to talk to a kid about this, and this is kind of we're talking about income inequality also leads to things like people's inability to get jobs, education, stuff like that. They're talking to a kid that's asking them if he should drop out of high school so he can start working. So you know what? I'm going to do this. Since you were so excited, this will be our cage match. Bum, bum, bum. All right, so with ringside vocabulary. So the kid's going to ask Ken and Jade, should he drop out of high school? We got to try and predict.
It scares me that this is what you picked, because if you picked it, they probably said...
Aiden is on the...
Huh?
I said it scares me that you picked this, because if you picked this, then I feel like the setup is they could have said something real weird.
Oh, yeah.
All right, here we go.
In Charlotte, North Carolina. Aiden, how can we help?
Yes, thank you. So I'll give you a little backstory. First of all, thank you so much for what you guys have done. You changed my family tree.
Wow.
Back in the day, my dad started FPU, I think, 12 years ago, and now they're doing amazing. I am currently 16 years old, and so still in school, obviously. And my question is, I have a job opportunity that I could go take next week if I wanted to, and didn't know if it's better to just simply drop out of school, start working, get these next few years in early, and then later on get my GED and go from there.
What's the job?
It is, so it's a stone manufacturing company, so like the fake stone that you see on walls and stuff. It's not really fake, it's concrete that's kind of painted, I guess.
Yeah.
And they create those stones.
Is that a job that puts you on a ladder to climb?
So real quick, so he's whatever, 16, 17. Should I drop out of high school to take this job making, I guess, the stone stuff, fake stone, whatever it is? What do you think, Lace? What do you think they're going to say? What do you think the move is here? What's Ken going to do?
I'm totally terrified. Okay. Well, I think you tell the kid to at least make it through high school. I think that's what you do.
I would, yeah.
I'm not sure if he's going to really tell his kid to drop out per se, but I feel like he's going to at least be going around the bend and asking a bunch of, like, what kinds of careers are you looking to do in the future sort of position? Like,
Right.
If he decides he wants to, like, really go into masonry or something, then, could be this whole maybe higher education is not important sort of something. Although I don't think we're going to hear Ken literally tell this kid to drop out of school.
Probably not. All right, so let's go in and let's let him finish here real quick. Come on, Ken.
To where you ultimately want to be. My goodness, you're only 16, and I love that you're thinking about this, but where does this put you long term if you were to go now or 2 years from now?
So, yeah. So it would give me just a head start. That is what I'm looking at it from. And yes, I could climb, and there's definitely opportunities for raises and bonuses.
No, I'm not asking about financial. I know. I can
Okay.
hear you, man. You are a 16-year-old kid who's got dollar signs rolling around in your head. Your dad and mom did a great job by teaching you about money. I get that. I'm not talking about financial because it's indisputable that if a 16-year-old starts working now, you're ahead of every other 16-year-old. I get it.
I think his dad and mom suck. Because if this was my kid, should I drop out of high school and take this job? I'd be like, if you want to live outside of my house, yeah.
I mean, seriously,
Yeah,
that's
no.
exactly what would have been said to me.
No, it's, what was I? Not a great movie, but the last Indiana Jones in the Crystal Skull. And he finds out that he has a son with Marion. And he spent the whole movie hanging out with the kid, and the kid's telling him about how he dropped out of college because he wanted to get a head start in life and do more stuff. And Indiana's been spending the whole movie going, yeah, that's a good idea, and blah, blah, blah. And, you're your own man, go your own way. And then when Marion finally tells him, well, he's your son, the first thing Indiana says to him, you let him drop out of college? It's like, you freaking idiot. Why would you let him do that?
I'm saying, does going in this job at a stone manufacturer, is that your dream? Is that where you want to be?
So, not officially, but it would get me closer to where I want to be eventually.
Which is what?
I want to get into business ownership and real estate.
No. Okay, so, first of all, Aiden, I love you, man. But, and I'm the guy. If there was anybody that ever would say it's okay to drop out of high school, I'm the guy.
Well, I'm the girl.
Oh, they're doing it. So, you called it. They didn't tell him to drop out of high school, but they're endorsing it.
But they didn't exactly say not to. I was so scared that they might do that, and I really wanted to lose this one. I wanted this one not to be a win for me.
Well, and here's the thing. So we don't have to watch the rest of this because he's gonna go into, well, if this was, because the kid wants to do something in real estate, and so he's like, well, if it was a real estate kind of gig, then maybe it might make sense. But since it's not going to further your career necessarily, right? And then he goes to this thing about, but yeah, dropping out of high school, going to work is a big thing. He does qualify that getting your GED. There's a stigma to a GED, which I think is a weird way to put it too, because it's a well-earned stigma, right? Because the whole point, this is what they're missing, and I think a lot of people miss, is when you're an employer, like I've employed people, right? The whole point is you got to have at least gone to high school. Otherwise, I'm not going to consider it. If you got your GED, that's good, but you better show me an associate's also with your GED. Because part of what high school is not so much, it is sort of the education, but that's not the most important part to me. The most important part to me is, can you work and socialize with other people? Which is a lot of what you learn in school, right? Because if I hire you and you're just a weird guy that puts everybody on edge, right? Or you're just abnormal, or you do a lot of social faux pas that could get people in trouble or get us in trouble as a temp, I don't want you around. I don't know. I mean, you're a live wire, right? As opposed to, well, I did go to high school. It's like, it doesn't matter what your role was in high school. You could have been the biggest nerd or the biggest jock. I don't really care. I just care that you stuck it out. Because then I know you at least can stick it out here at my business, right? You're not going to fuck things up, right? Socially, at least, right? I don't want people complaining because you don't know, you said something awkward and it got misconstrued as sexual harassment kind of shit, right? That's part of the whole thing about going to college is, it was like, well, we get a degree in like underwater basket weaving. A lot of times, unless you have a specific sort of career, a lot of times employers, they don't care what your major was. When I got out of college, nobody asked me what my bachelor's degree is in. Nobody ever asked.
No.
They just asked if you had it.
I guess mine has mattered slightly.
Well,
one of my jobs, was going into education, and so going into education, and I do not teach lower grades. If you teach upper grades, you have to be, your bachelor's degree needs to have somehow, pertained to the subject area. So there's a little of that in my scenario, but things that I did prior to going into education after college, people didn't ask me about.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the only time I ever got asked about my bachelor's was when I applied to grad school, and it was funny because they were like, "What is liberal science? We don't know what that is." They'd never heard of it. It was like, well, it's sort of a made-up degree. It just means I spent a lot of time doing political science and philosophy. That's really all it means. I just spent a shit ton of time reading and writing essays. That's all it means. So yeah. But then, anyways, that's kind of a weird thing. I think they misunderstand the value. And so how does this affect income inequality is that you get a lot of people that don't like I have from here with the dropouts. So kids who drop out, how many go back and get their GED? 30% of white kids do, 20% of black kids, and 10% of Latinos. So income
So
inequality,
all across the board, it's pretty low.
it's very low. Yeah.
Yeah.
But income inequality is that whole thing that we talked about, and then we'll get into this too in a second on the next video, is you get a lot of these people that just have given up. They're not working, but a lot of them have high school only or less than high school, and they can't get ahead. So income inequality gets deepened by the fact that you don't have the education to put yourself in a position to get a job that actually makes decent money. And that's going to continue to be the trend as jobs more and more depend on things like computers, machines. You can't just walk in, and it's not like pick up a shovel or pick up an axe and go to work, right? They're going to require more and more technical skills going forward. That's just the reality of it. And so this idea that we encourage you to drop out of high school if it's your career path, I'm not saying that's wrong or bad, and I'm not getting on people who do that, but it's like, just realize the risk is you have now narrowed your career path to this one thing. And if it doesn't work out, you got to go back to the beginning and start over again. As opposed to you could get an education and you're more versatile.
I want to jump in there on that. So there is somebody in my family that was their experience. This is somebody in an older generation in my family, but it still is sort of what happened to them. They did not complete high school, and they did get a pretty good job that they moved up in, and they had a good salary with good benefits, etc. But when things started changing within that company and they became unhappy, now they were not on the chopping block, nor were they ever going to be on the chopping block, honestly. But when they became unhappy with the direction that company was going and were kind of poking around, seeing what else might be out there for them, they realized that they were stuck unless they could afford to suddenly be making minimum wage or something again, because they didn't have qualifications doing anything else.
Yeah, well, I think that's a phenomenal point too. Is it essentially it makes you a slave to your employer because you have no versatility. Where are you going to go?
Right.
So you're basically at that point you're a serf. You're stuck in a job that you might hate in 5 years, but where are you going to go? If you've got kids or something at that point, you've got bills. Unless you can afford to, like you said, go to a minimum wage or go back to school. And that's really hard. For anybody who's ever done it, like going to grad school, that first semester was brutal because I had to go back and remember, okay, yeah, you got to schedule for all this and do all this studying and right. And it's hard to get back into that flow. And if you've never really built that flow up because you dropped out of high school, you never really learned how to get into that pattern in the first place, which is the whole point. Then doing it for the first time, no wonder only 30% of white people, 20% of black, and 10% of Latino. But that also tells you something about income inequality and systemic racism in this country. Poor people tend to be black and Latino, and they're less likely to go back and get their GED. So I think that the whole thing, I'm going to give you this one. This was a win. I'm going to give this is a Lacey win. I didn't really do anything.
Yes. We usually share wins because we usually, are somehow sharing these wins, but this one was just a direct.
This was just all you.
I feel totally that I got that as a win. That win feels a little not very winny to me.
Now you know how I feel on most of my wins. It's like, what?
You're like,
God, why are you guys? what kills me too is these they've got like 2 million followers on their channel, let alone whatever he does on his radio shit. And it's like these people are listening to this, and it's always terrible. It's almost always terrible advice. I've rarely seen one where they give any. I've never seen them give what I thought was good advice, but I rarely see where they give what I think is like, oh, that's not bad, it's decent. But those are few and far between. Most of them are just awful. Speaking of which, let's step into the next one. Segue. I'm getting good at the segues. Not. So this is, for this one, this is going to be, this is the same video actually, but different clip. And they're going to talk about men quitting their jobs because of social status. Ken and Jade again.
I hate that it's men quitting jobs to be wrong.
Something about that it's men. Well, women aren't quitting their jobs at high rates. A lot of women quit because of COVID,
Don't get me started.
but
Don't
no.
even get me started. Okay.
Well, but
Here we
that,
go.
well, you might agree with him on this one then.
That I looked at, and it's coming from a new study from the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston. Men are dropping out of the labor force because they're upset about their social status. I'm just going to let that sit for a second.
Oh God, we gotta let that sit. I'm
I think we should explain it before we let it sit.
We gotta let it sit. I'm angry. They're quitting because of social status. Are you angry? I'm angry.
I want to hear a little bit more before I decide whether I'm angry or I care or I don't know.
I'm not shocked at all. I mean,
I'm not surprised that people are quitting their jobs. The zoom in on men is curious, but
well, I know the ending here. The ending here is he didn't actually really read the article.
I don't know that I've read a more pathetic headline in my lifetime. I want to say it again. I want you to hear what it really is saying. Headline is, men are dropping out of labor
This guy sounds like my fucking racist grandpa.
force because they're upset about their social status. What it should say is, men are quitting because it's not going the way they want it to.
man.
I'm not making as much money as the other guy. So I'm going to go home
That's
and
not
live
what
off
the
of mom and
headline
dad.
said. Is that what the article said? That's not the headline saying.
No, so why don't we go ahead and we'll do the article real quick before we get too much. So men are dropping out of the labor force because they're upset about their social status. Part of this is they don't have, these are guys that don't have a 4-year degree or above. And so they're between 25 and 54. So these are high school only. And a lot of them are dropping out because their bosses are making more money. But what they also focus on here is this. Non-college educated men have seen their pay shrink by more than 30% since 1980. So these guys are making 2/3 what people in 1980 were making doing the same job. Right? As where guys with college education rose by 20%. So the bosses are making more money and they're making less than they would have been 40 years ago. All right. The author of this study, Pingy Wu, for many workers, a job not only offers financial security, it also affirms their status, which is tied to their position relative to their age, peers, and many social outcomes. So your ability to meet women, get married, buy a house, all that stuff is tied to a little bit to your job and your social status. And if it's constantly declining, you're the guys you're working for going up, then yeah, what's the point, right? So that's kind of what they were saying here. Now, what was the other thing I was going to say? So if the increasing wage gap, once again, wealth inequality, what we're talking about, increasing wage gap between high and low earners directly or indirectly affects men's aggregate labor supply, wage inequality might have carried wider implications to the economy than previously believed. So her whole argument here in this study is it's got to the point where the inequality gap is so big, right? Think about it, Lacey. If you and I were working at a company and next year they lowered your pay by 10% and raise mine by 10, you'd want to fucking quit too. If we worked there at the same time in 5 years, you never got a raise and I got a raise every year, you'd want to quit.
Listen, even if you didn't get the raise every year, if I've been there 5 years and nobody's even inching me up.
Yeah. And you're just basically, you're basically always going to be the serf, the toady. That's all you're ever going to be.
I hate to go yada yada inflation because I'm really not even the person who's all about talking about inflation, but like at that point, you're losing money every year.
Right. And then while you're doing that, you're working all those hours and doing all that stuff. Meanwhile, your boss is showing up in their convertible with their hot new girlfriend, and you can't even afford to go on a date. And it's hard to meet women when you're broke. You know, even if you're the best looking guy in the world, it's hard to meet women when you're broke. It's just hard. And so, yeah, I can see where, like, he's the crybaby thing. Oh, no. Well, but what's the other alternative? The alternative is you just keep continuing on this path forever and ever and never get anywhere. Great, I'm making my boss money, but what's in it for me? You know? So I don't know where he's going to, I can't remember where he goes with this. We'll watch it real quick, but that's kind of the whole point of the article. So that was the article. Let's see what his interpretation is.
Oh, Flake? You wimp? What is happening here? All right, now, before I go further into data, I got to take 30 seconds on this. And some of you are going to say, oh, you're old school or you're a boomer. Well, number one, yes, I am old school. Number two, I'm not a boomer. I'm a proud member of Generation X, whatever the crap that means. I've never understood what that means.
It means you were born in the 70s. These people are idiots, dude. I don't know this sometimes.
I know which generation I'm in, and all it means is where you fall on a numeric chart of years.
Yeah.
That's what it means.
That's all it is.
Just putting it out there.
Yeah. But he's the career expert, and he doesn't know what the generations are. Okay.
But let me tell you something. You know where this starts? It's a total generation, where we tried to make everybody feel good, and we gave everybody a trophy or a participation ribbon for showing up. And I got news for you people. This is what happens when we try to make everybody feel good, and we try to avoid having them feel the sting of loss. I got news for you.
I don't feel like this correlation makes any sense.
Well, first off,
connecting dots that I don't think connect.
That's my point. It's where in the article did she say giving children trophies makes them men that didn't graduate from high school, that are miserable and underpaid and quit their jobs? How do any of these things relate? Yeah.
I think you could link the participation award thing to certain issues in the realm of employment, but I don't think this study is one of them at all.
Well, no, I even looked up the participation trophy thing, and the psychological arguments are, that it's a good thing for kids that are under 7 or 8, right? Because they don't really understand the competition stuff yet, right? But once they get to 8, it's a bad thing because they don't appreciate it because they know the difference between winning and losing.
Right.
But, when they're little, what you're trying to teach them is, no, what's important is that you showed up and you participated and you worked as a team. So here's a trophy, here's a reward for that to make you feel good about it. That's it. Now, does that lead to those kids thinking they deserve more in life or there's no correlation or study that says that. The other thing about it too is that a lot of the places where you see that kind of participation trophy stuff is suburbs and cities, right? The guys he's talking about, mostly in the South, rural communities, in conservative communities where they don't generally do that kind of stuff. So the guys he's talking about probably never got a participation trophy. And the other thing to bitch about, participation trophies, wasn't really a thing until the 2000s. So the oldest person today that could probably be spoiled by a participation trophy would be in their early to mid-20s, right? Well, this study, it's guys over 25.
Right, so only the very, very like bottom layer, like age-wise,
Right.
of this study might have had that place.
Yeah, so the people that we're talking about were born in the 90s or the 80s, some in the 70s. So well, a lot of I grew up in the 80s. I mean, in the 90s. I didn't ever get a participation trophy. You got a trophy if you won, right? And when you're little, it's kind of devastating when you don't get a trophy. But when you're 8 or 9, you're like, yeah, we lost, we sucked, we got to do better next time. But yeah, so this idea that this is a thing, okay, we're just too nice to people, we're just too sweet and nice. It's like, yeah, but you're talking about stuff that didn't occur until the 2000s, affecting people that were already in their probably 20s, or probably 13 or 14 by the time this stuff was going on. So the group you're talking about didn't have any of this shit, which is, you'd think would be an important thing to understand generations for the career expert talking about why people are in certain careers, especially if you're saying, oh, well, what affects them is how they were raised. Well, dude, you don't even know who you're talking about. But here it is.
And then there's loser. I'm just being honest.
He just described himself. Sorry. And then there's loser.
Best. Well, listen, you said, well, kid, what about the Olympics? They got the gold medal, the silver medal, the bronze medal. Well, these are Olympians who work really hard. We should acknowledge first, second, third place. But in youth soccer, when the score is 5-0, I got news for you, little buddy. You lost. You lost 5-0. And by the way, the 5-year-olds know. These kids are smart enough to realize that
Gosh, kind of makes you wish he was your dad. You lost, little buddy. You're a loser. Thanks, Dad.
I was hoping he was going to say, I hope you had fun.
You did your best. Next time we could do things differently. Shit. Suppose.
Right, something
You lost.
A little more uplifting than that. I mean, it doesn't have to be a, here's your trophy scenario, but, come on.
Yeah, you're a loser. Just suck it up, loser.
Oh, boy, okay.
You're going to spend the rest of your life working for some guy making a lot less than he does. And then when you want to quit because you're miserable and you can't find a date and you're alone and making shit, you need to keep sucking it up and doing it until you die. Because you're a loser. I mean, that's his whole fucking argument. Now, I want to get back to this, though. Where in the study or in the article did Dr. Wu attribute any of this shit to this? She attributed the problem to income inequality. This is all a big straw man.
And he's talking about 5-year-old losing at soccer games or something.
Right. It's a big straw man. It's a big straw man. And the reason he has to do it is because his whole belief is that this is all individual. It's all personal. There's nothing about society or the system that creates this problem. Right? And I know we've gotten some of you guys comment, well, you guys are bitching about the system and society. Nah. What are you saying? We should all just give up? No, we're saying you should fucking recognize the problem. You can't deal with the problem until you recognize it. You can't avoid a trap unless you know it's there. I'm sorry, basic shit. That's not revolutionary thinking here. Right? And the bottom line is, if you're in a systemic system where, yeah, okay, I'm making a lot less than people 40 years ago were making the same job. My boss is making a lot more. I'm fucking miserable. My life sucks. Well, you got to start thinking about making a change. And not just quit your job. If you're going to quit, fine. But if you're going to do that, Also look at, well, are there programs that could help me go back to school? Because believe it or not, there are a lot of government programs designed to help displaced workers. The problem is they have a hard time getting people to sign up for them. So go look, because they're out there. I'm 30, I'm displaced, I dropped out of high school. I live in a rural community, I'm broke, my life sucks. Go call the local government, call aging and disability services, call social services. Ask them. They will point you in a direction. And the next thing you know, you might be in an engineering class that the government's paying for. Yeah.
Oh, they went at ARNet twice, and we haven't even sniffed the other side of the field.
And you want to know what, Ken? They can handle it.
They can, Jade.
They can handle it. These kids are resilient.
Well, my problem is nobody's arguing this. Nobody's arguing that, okay, so if we just stop giving kids trophies unless they win, they'll stick with jobs they hate that they're underpaid for. Right. That's their argument.
They're acting as though that's what they're arguing against, but the study never said anything that seems to be implying that.
Yeah, well, so that's Ken and Jade. Yep.
Wow.
Good stuff. Quality stuff. Obviously didn't read the article because the article doesn't say anything about that. The article says there's a bigger implication for wealth inequality, which is people are going to quit their jobs. And I know it's going to piss some of you off, but that goes back to our whole thing we were talking about socialism and stuff. And we talked about Marx, and Marx's argument was eventually wealth inequality will get so bad that people will revolt, and that's what's going to overthrow things. And hey, if you guys want to be the wealthy ones when they pull out the guillotines again, it's on you. Alacias and I are not. Yeah, Alacias and I are not getting in that fight.
No.
I mean, we'll try and make sure they don't kill you, but we're not going to risk our limbs for that. So just.
We'll try to use our words.
Yes. I will make a very, very stern argument in your behalf until somebody threatens me physically, and then you're on your own. The Marquis puts a gun in my face, I'm going to be like, yep. Whatever you say, boss.
You know what? At least you're being honest,
Yep.
right?
All right. So we're going to go to... Oh, Dave Ramsey's going to explain wealth inequality. The man himself. Ken and Jade's boss. Here he is. Wealth inequality. See, Lacey, we didn't understand it. Dave understands it. He's going to explain it. Are you psyched?
A little nervous, but...
All right, well, here we go.
America, Dave Ramsey, your host.
Oh, we got to speed him up. He's so slow.
Wealth be unequal. I want you to be part of the problem with wealth inequality. I want to make you wealthy. I want to show you how to handle money so you can become vastly wealthy, completely change your family tree, and give money and help others. Like no.
I want to point this out. This guy has never made anybody vastly wealthy. He's never made anybody wealthy. So that's just horse shit.
Nobody's business. I want you to be the problem. When people are griping about wealth inequality, I want them to see your face. That's my goal. I'm trying to help you get there. I want you to be unequal. I want you to be better than average. I don't want you to be typical. I don't want you to be normal. Listen, I'm a member of the marriage inequality movement, too, because I've been married now for 30 years.
Whoa, what does that mean?
You know what that means. And I know what that means. I cannot believe that he pulled that into that. Oh, boy. Okay.
So was he talking about women or gay people or both?
I feel fairly confident that this is a queer thing.
Oh, could be.
Not a particularly female.
Well, marriage inequality. Your wife shouldn't have any rights. She should be property, like, in the Bible.
No, I don't that.
No, he won't.
And my my sort of evidence for that would be that he is very insistent that he and Sharon have an income, although she does not work outside of the home.
Is she allowed to?
I think based on that, idea, he's not likely to be saying that about women. So I feel fairly certain that was him, like, throwing out his views, about gay marriage.
Yeah, could be. Is his wife allowed to leave the house? I don't know. I've never seen her. So, oh man. Anyway, so I want to get this real quick. So this goes back to my basic argument. Liberals believe equal treatment under the law. Conservatives believe hierarchy. Some people deserve more rights than others. He's making that argument right now. Right? Some people deserve more.
Almost 33 years, which makes me weird because very few people have been. And so my marriage is unequal. I'm a member of the kid inequality movement too. All three of my kids are grown, functional, and don't live in my house. I'm a member of the kid inequality movement.
All three of your kids work for you, though.
All right. And also, I thought he was going into a queer thing, and he didn't, so I was incorrect there. He's now doing strange things with the concept of the word.
Right, he's strawmanning it. He's trying to. So, are you familiar with what's called a Mott and Bailey? It's a debate technique. So, in the old days, especially in France, they used to have the Bailey, which was the village, and it was on fairly level ground, and it was fairly poorly defended. And then on the hill in the center of the village, you'd have the castle, the Mott. So if the village was attacked, everybody would retreat to the castle, which was defended. In debate, I make a statement that's really stupid, like women don't deserve to be in the workplace. Something I can't really defend, right? And as soon as you attack me and go, well, wait a minute, women do really well in the workplace, I go, well, but you have to acknowledge that there are differences between men and women. That would be my motto. Yeah, that's true. There are differences between men and women, but it had nothing to do directly with the argument. I'm trying to lead you to a place where I can defend, right, from my indefensible start. His indefensible start is income inequality is a great thing. It's good. We want more of it. I want you to all be unequal. I want you to have more money than everybody else, right? Then he's going to go back to, okay, well, let's talk about what is equality and inequality. And yeah, and some things are equal. My marriage is different than other marriages. That's not equal. What is equality? So now he's getting into this technical, well, what are we talking about with equality and inequality? So that's his Mott versus his Bailey. His Bailey, he can't defend, and he knows it, so he's got to retreat to this position where he's doing this fucking word game, And, his elderly audience, they're like children if you just jingle some keys.
I don't want my kids to be, I don't want them to be normal. I don't want them to be typical. I want you to be excellent. I want you to be passionate. I want you to win. I want you to do things better than you've ever done them before. And the sad thing about that is people who won't make the same choices you make won't be in the same position you're in after you do those things. After you make better choices, you'll start winning. Someone who plays a guitar better than someone else because they practice 10,000 hours more than they practice makes more money playing the guitar.
That's not true. There are a lot of unsuccessful musicians who are phenomenal. I got to tell, this is such an untrue bullshit thing. Alacias, we were in theater for how many years? Like a decade. I did theater.
Right.
You've done it for a long time.
Longer.
How many incredible actors and writers have you met who never got a break? I can think of probably 100.
Oh, easily, maybe more. I personally have probably cast 100 of them in shows that I have directed and produced,
and they're never going to go anywhere. So this idea that talent or hard work makes you money, no, there are I know guys who are just phenomenal guitar players They're never
And
gonna,
hardworking ones.
yeah, and they're never gonna fucking tour with Springsteen. It just ain't gonna happen. You know, they're gonna do gigs or they're gonna teach, and that's what they're gonna do. They're never gonna get a shot. It happens. So this is all horseshit. I mean, so the premise. I just want to get to this. So the premise of his argument is going to be income inequality. First off, it's good. He knows it's not. He can't defend that. So he goes to, well, what are we talking about with equality? And now he's pulling into a position of, okay, well, really it comes down to hard work and talent, which you can't, if you draw the line, you can't connect any of these things because they're not connected at all. So it's just one of those things where basically the argument is, you know, the sun is bright, yet ice cream is delicious, and those things are connected. No, they're not. They're not directly connected. So it's just horseshit. I mean, it's just amazing to me. But we'll skip through this real quick, and then we're gonna meet Lacey's new boyfriend.
So scared. Okay.
People who are more talented putting a puck in the net do make more money playing hockey than those who don't. That's why Wayne Gretzky made more money than that other guy that you don't know his name.
Who was probably better than Wayne Gretzky and never got a shot. I also want to remind everybody, I'm playing him at 1.25 speed. This is how fucking slow he talks.
It's not equal. And so somewhere along the line, we taught everybody that everybody gets a trophy.
Oh, the trophy thing.
That equal means fair.
They really like the trophy thing, don't they? Is that just me, Lace, or do they really like the trophy thing?
They really like the trophy thing.
God. And that's not even I mean, that's like the last 20 years. That's not even an old thing. I don't know.
Fair is not equal. It would be unfair.
Nobody's arguing for fairness. Has anybody argued for fairness? Have you heard that? We're talking about lessening wealth inequality. We're not talking about total equal fairness. Nobody's talking about that. Doesn't exist.
No, it's more talking about like a fair shot at something.
Yeah, we're talking about equal treatment under the law, equal opportunity.
Opportunity.
We're
Right,
talking about
right.
developing a more merit-based system. That's when we talk about
Not
that.
necessarily outcome, because outcomes will vary based on many factors, but equal opportunities.
Right.
That's kind of the conversation that's happening.
Well, I mean, this is like this is maybe a little bit of a straw man, but it's a simplified argument, and I've done this before. I have 2 kids, right? One kid, I give everything: time, attention, money, education, tutors, training, everything, right? And the other kid, I just give him 1 meal a day, and the rest is on his own. Which of these 2 kids do you think is going to be the most successful? Well, clearly the kid I gave everything to, right? But which of these kids is genetically smarter or more talented or better looking? We have no fucking idea. Could be the kid I gave nothing. But he'll never get a chance to use any of that shit unless somebody else steps in and helps him out. Nobody just figures it out on their own. It takes thousands of years that way. That's why we were basically tribal for such a long time, because we hadn't figured anything out yet. So I mean, this whole argument is stupid. Nobody's arguing for fairness. Nobody's arguing for equality in that sense of everybody being we all get the same amount of food and shelter and all that shit. No, it's not going to happen. What we're talking about is making it more equal in the sense of people having the opportunity to succeed, which now makes it a merit-based system, or at least as merit-based as we can make it, right? Which is what fucking terrifies conservatives, because if it's merit-based, then it's not that some people are better. Because if it's merit-based, anybody could win. Right? They don't want that. Because then they could potentially lose their shit. That's what he's scared of. They won't admit that, but that's what his thought process is. So it's got to be that when you're wealthy, you earned it. It's Worthington's Law, right?
Worthington's Law all over again.
For you to get paid the same amount of money to play a guitar that Brad Paisley gets paid, it would be unfair for you to get paid the same amount of money to play golf that Tiger Woods gets paid, because he's better at it than you are. So it would be unfair for it to be equal instead of equal is fair.
Again, he's talking about the
As a matter of fact,
outcomes all being equal rather than the opportunity essentially like at the beginning, you know?
Right. It's his Mott and Bailey, right?
Right.
Equality is bad. But I mean, it's like, you know, if you do more work, you should get more money. Well, yeah, but we're talking about at the beginning, right? It's one of the things I wish these guys, and I know they never are, what's his name? John Rawls, I think it was. And God, I wish I'd have thought of this because it's fucking genius. And in his book, he opens it with this question: design a society not knowing who you are going to be in that society. You don't know if you're going to be a man, a woman. You don't know what your skin color is going to be. You don't know if you're going to have a disability. You don't know if you're going to be attractive or unattractive. You don't know who you're going to be. Design that society. Well, of course, you're going to want to design the most fair society, the most equal society as possible. Right? Because you don't know what you're going to get. It's the same theory as if I have 10 kids at a party and I tell the birthday girl, all right, honey, you can pick whatever slice of cake you want and you get to slice the cake. Well, of course, they're going to cut small slices for the other kids and they're going to keep the biggest for themselves. You know, most of the time. Not every kid, but most of the time, right? But if you tell those kids, okay, honey, you get to slice the cake, but you get whatever slice is last. You better bet most kids are going to slice them as equally as possible. It's the same theory, but he doesn't want that. He wants to be able to slice the cake and pick the slice before anybody else. That's what he wants. And that's what he's arguing for. He just doesn't understand it.
unequal is more fair than equal. Oh, now I'm messing and tripping
That's just a stupid statement.
with your little psychology and your little philosophy, aren't I?
Oh yeah, you're messing with me, Dave. You got me.
Equal is unfair. How's that?
Stupid.
Smoke on it for a second. Equal is unfair.
It's so stupid.
Because
So, equals unfair. How are we defining equal? So if I do X amount of work and Dave does X amount of work and we get paid the same, that's unfair.
I feel like this goes back to his perception that he is evaluating all of it based on the outcome rather than the opportunity.
Well, he's yeah, potentially. I think also he's defining equal as we all get the same thing regardless of what we do.
Right.
Which is
the
not
outcome as well. Regardless of what we do or studied or how well we did at something or talent or any of, all the zillion factors there, regardless of all of that, we all just get the same thing.
Right. But here's
so that's like an outcome driven thing rather than looking at it from the base of let's start with some equal opportunities and give people the opportunity to be able to develop in a certain way.
Well, and it's a stupid argument because he actually disproves his own point, which is this. When we're talking about equality or income inequality and how we want to kind of squeeze that down as much as possible, what we're actually talking about is equal treatment. When we talk about equality, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about equal opportunity, equal treatment. We're not talking about equal outcome. I don't know that anybody's arguing for equal outcome because it's just not going to happen. It just isn't.
There are too many factors that are wild cards.
So that's the thing is you're not talking about giving people equal shit. What we're talking about is giving them the opportunity, or at least the resources for the opportunity. That would be equal treatment. So if I give 1,000 kids and I give them all the same equal opportunity at education, advancement, I make sure that they have food, shelter, clothing, security, so they can develop. Those kids are going to be more successful than if I just let them. Well, some of these kids get advantages and some don't. Right? But in both situations, I'm not going to get none of the outcome is going to be different for all these kids. It's not going to be the same, no matter what scenario we spend it. So his idea that that's the goal, that's his straw man, and it makes no sense. But it disproves his point, which is he's saying, well, unequal is fair, right? So it should be that people who do less get more money. That would be fair in an unequal is fair society. Right? But he's saying, well, no. If I do more, I should get what I deserve. And if you do less, you should get what you deserve. And that's not fair. But you can flip it both ways. Right? And given that you can flip it both ways, let's look at, this is the unequal is fair. This is the proof that wealth inequality is a good thing. We're proving it for Dave. Even though we don't agree with it, we're proving it for Dave. And not just improving it, we are going to introduce Lacey to her new boyfriend, Wyatt Coke.
Oh, I thought it was Uncle Buck for a minute.
Wyatt, you can do whatever you want to in life. Just make sure you do it well and you do it with passion. Every day I go to the office, I enjoy creating clothes.
There he is, Lace. Are you hot yet?
Dare to be different, man.
That's, so you know the Koch brothers, right? Yeah, that's one of their sons. And he has this lifestyle brand where he makes kind of Hawaiian shirt kind of things. And he's worth billions.
Really bright colors and stuff.
Oh yeah, he's worth billions. And this is his ad. It's good stuff. This is old, but you're gonna love this.
Be bold means to me be authentic.
Yeah. Oh, see, he's got a shirt with money bags on it. Isn't that hot, Lacey? I think he's single.
I mean, I feel like if you're an elementary school teacher, shirts like that work.
Yeah, baby.
Be yourself.
Oh, gosh. Do you see that? That's priceless. That's his design studio. See him? He's designing the clothes there. It's like me coloring with my nephew when he was 5.
I like coloring.
Yeah.
But still.
Yeah, but did your father buy you a clothing company?
No.
Have that tenacity that no one can take away from you.
Now he's gesticulating.
I want my shirts
Gesticulation.
to be worn in the boardroom or in a discoteca or a nightclub or on a yacht.
See? Hanging out with beautiful people in beautiful places.
I really want
gesticulating some more. He's
something that's fun, outside the box, cool, trendy, yet really bold and interesting.
Okay. First off, guys, if you see a woman making these hand gestures, she's not interested. Just let you know. If you sit next to a beautiful woman and her arm is like this, and she's smiling and doing that, she's uncomfortable. This is not comfortable. This is comfortable.
Even a few women do that to you.
Yeah. This is the turtle. I'm trying to make myself small. I don't want to touch this freak.
Right. Let me sort of.
So that's That's it. That's Dave's poster child. That is what Dave wants. That's what he wants. Wyatt Coke. That's the guy. Does Wyatt Coke make any money off those shirts? Fuck no. Does he have to? No. No, he doesn't. He's a billionaire. Why? Because Daddy's a billionaire. He doesn't have to do anything. You know, he could sit around and color all day. I'm sure his father just did this. Just give him something to do so I don't have to fucking deal with it.
Wouldn't that be an interesting thing? Oh, let's get my kid out of my hair. Let's just like give them a company or
Let's
something.
just buy him a company. Fine. Wyatt, you need $10 million to make fucking stupid. Who wears those shirts? When would you ever see somebody wear? Like in Hawaii, I've seen people wear Hawaiian shirts all the time, but those are nice. And they're not like bags of money.
I gave you my thoughts on. I have two thoughts. So a print like that, if you worked in elementary school where you wear bright primary colors,
Sure,
prints or something maybe, and the other one is you see those on Scrubs.
Yeah, but he's doing it for people that are on the yacht, in the boardroom, or at the discoteca. That's what he's doing.
On his advertisement, it didn't seem like he had any of the other people on the yacht with him wearing those shirts. It was just him. Isn't that like a missed opportunity? I'm not a marketing person per se, but it kind of seems like you want to like plant other people in your prints, right?
You'd think so. I think a lot of it is just the only time you'd see a bunch of people wearing shirts like that in the boardroom is if you worked for the company that made the shirts. Oh god, we gotta wear the fucking shirts because Wyatt's gonna be in today. Oh shit. Oh man. Oh come on. We just broke everything today. Oh gosh. So anyway, he's single, Lace. I'm just letting you know.
I didn't even know who we were looking at first. I was like, is this Uncle Buck? I remember Uncle Buck having that short of hair.
I know nope, that's Wyatt. I might
have been a little more excited about Uncle Buck.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Is like that's the result. I mean, he's a great example of the result of wealth inequality. Here's a guy who's always been handed everything. He's got a company that makes no money, and he just sort of flits around doing nothing. He sits on yachts and gesticulates at women he pays to be there. It's so I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, I think it wasn't really a huge point to this one, other than a lot of the arguments that when you talk to when you see people in finance or more conservative people, they want income inequality to be like, well, it's not that big of a deal. It's not a huge deal. And then at the same time, well, all these guys are quitting their jobs because they're getting paid shit. Then they got to start, well, it's just because these guys are assholes. And they're upset about it. But they get upset at the results of their problems that they're for. And then they got to blame somebody else. I mean, it's literally like being in an abusive relationship. Right? It's literally, you come home and you're getting yelled at all the time, so you start coming home later and later so you can avoid it. And then they're upset that you're coming home later and later.
Right.
And then what are they doing? They're bitching about, well, it's your fault for, why aren't you coming home on time? Well, this is why.
Right.
And they don't get it. It's like, yeah, you guys are kind of the abusers here in this relationship. Economically, financially. And you can't understand why people don't want to keep getting abused. Bummer. But,
You can't be shocked when the abused decide to move on out.
No. So, that was kind of our show for today. Lacey found a new boyfriend. She's gonna be dating Wyatt Coke. She's gonna bring it in.
No, you see, because I'm pretty sure.
Lacey, we need the sponsor money. We need the sponsor money, Lace. You got to take one for the team.
Yeah, but then you have to wear those shirts.
Oh God. All right, you win. I'll start dating wealthy. I'll start dating wealthy older women.
Oh, I thought you said you were going to start dating him. I was going to have to wear a shirt.
If he's available, I mean, you know, for $100 million, I might.
It's been a rough patch for you, so you'll consider it, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm a man whore. We just got to narrow down to my price at this point.
All right. Well, there we go. All right. In the comments below, if you want to put out there what you think Duncan's price should be, let us know.
Yeah. Well, I look terrible today, so this was not a good time to be marketing it. But oh well. Well, anyway, good show. Where can everybody reach you, Lace?
All right. So if you want information about courses, workshops, or blog posts, you can catch me at mysensebizsense.com. If you want further information about those courses, or you want to send us topic requests, ask us questions, or find out Duncan's price, I don't know, where can they write into us?
You can email us at gossipfinancead@outlook.com. Yes, you can make bids. We'll see what we come up with. You never know. Yeah, if you guys got comments or things you want us to talk about, or if you're one of those angry commenters who wants to call and debate us, yeah, shoot us an email. Maybe we can work something out. You guys certainly don't.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, that could be fun. So yeah, good show. Please like, subscribe, and hope you guys had fun with us today. And we will catch you next week for sure. All right, talk to you later.